Good. Welcome everyone. I am super happy to be here. I think this is the first meetup I am facilitating. Yeah, so I'm pretty excited to see you all and those that will join in later. Yeah, maybe to start off, I would like to share my screen. So let's see. How am I sharing? This here. And before I even start, I want to confirm that I have a fan running in the background. So I want to make sure that that is not distracting anyone. So you would tell me, or someone would just let us know if they hear any background sound from my side. Anyway, this side is too hot. That's why the fan is running. So I would like to know if it's not distracting anyone. Otherwise, I have to take it off.
Well, I'm not hearing anything, so I think we are good to go.
Okay.
Yeah, like actually, we are good to go. I'm not hearing also anything.
Great. So to get started, today we want to talk about global fonting and coloring. But before we go into talking about global fonting and coloring inside the page builder, we have to first understand what fonts or what font types or typefaces or typography. I'm sorry if I'm now reusing a lot of complicated words for beginners, but this is the basis of everything when you're going to start building your website. Understanding what kind of fonts and font faces you're going to be using is very important. So we are going to first have a background of what fonts are, what is typography, and also understanding, the colors and what they communicate to visitors. And I think that will give us a basis on how we can get started on choosing what colors to use and where and how. So my name is Kwehangana Hamza. I started using WordPress in 2014. I ran a web design agency for 5 years. I launched GoTech QG, a blog which is still running, called gotechqg.com in 2017, and I launched the GoTech YouTube channel, the GoTech QG YouTube channel. That is in 2017. No, actually in 2019, sorry. I enjoy swimming, cycling, and travel, and some bit of mountain climbing. So that is a little bit of brief about me, if you, in case you didn't know already. So, global fonting and coloring. What are some of the best practices and of typography and color usage for websites? But first, let's talk about typography basics. And when I talk about typography, we are basically talking about the art and technique of arranging type to make written language legible, readable, and appealing when displayed. And I have a quote over here that goes like, great typography can elevate a design from good to amazing, while bad typography, typography design can make the best projects technically unusable. And when we talk about typography, we are basically talking about typefaces and fonts. So if you don't understand what typefaces are and what fonts are, I have a small description over here that I thought would make sense to anyone who is just getting started. A typeface is a design of lettering that can include variations in size, weight, slope, width, and so on. We are going to talk about this a little bit later. You'll see what I mean by size, weight, slope, width. But I want you to first understand that it is a design of lettering that can include different variations of these variables. And each of these variations of a typeface is a font. So you can have one font and it has different, variables. Those different variables are the ones that make up what we call a typeface. And typefaces are classified in basically 5 classifications. That means we have, those are the serifs, the sans serifs, the scripts, the monospaced, and the display fonts. We are going to focus mostly on the sans serifs, the serifs, and a little bit explain the others, but the mostly that are used are the sans serifs and the serifs. But that doesn't mean others are not usually used, but it depends on the applications and the projects that you're going to be working on. I am sorry, I'm going to go a little bit faster because we have a very limited time, but where I'm really fast, I would like you guys probably to interject and try to, let me know in case some things are not clear. So when we talk about a typeface, it has different characteristics, what makes a typeface to be that specific typeface. And some of these typefaces and some of these characteristics depend on how the lettering of that specific typeface is. We have an anatomy of a typeface over right here. And we are not going to talk about everything, but I want to just point you to certain things that you want to spot out in case you want to choose a typeface to use for your next project. A few of the things are, one, the serifs. What you see over here, the ending of a type right over here, that is what they call a serif. The other thing is called the baseline, which is the line of where the type actually is, line over here, where you see what we call the baseline. The other is called the stroke. The stroke is any extension that goes after the baseline. Anything that goes below down there is actually, that is actually a descender. So anything that goes beyond the baseline going down after the baseline, that is a descender. And if you talk about an ascender, which is up here, is anything that goes beyond the difference between, one, the line that is at the top of the typeface over right here. So this over right here. So here we call it the baseline, but here I don't know if we should call it the upper line, but I think you get the meaning of this. So anything that goes beyond this upper line going up is called the ascender, and anything that goes beyond the line where the typefaces are seated is called the descender. So the other thing is called the stroke. This over right here, when you look at the letter Y, what we have as where the letter is seated, just like this here, and right over here, and right over here, that is what we call a stroke. So depending on the typeface that you are going to be using, it may have some of these characteristics, and it may not have some of these characteristics. Like, for example, there are script fonts or script typefaces. They may not have some of these characteristics, but it is very vital for you to understand what this is. Then the other things that you guys have probably, come across, like letter spacing, the space between two letters. And let me see, maybe what have you guys probably come across? The leading. The leading is a space between the baseline of the other font, of the above font, and the baseline of the font that is, or the line that is actually following down on the next font or in the next sentence to say. I hope that actually makes sense. So that is, in summary, a characteristic of a typeface. So when you are going to choose a typeface, these are a few things that you should, have at the back of your mind, and they will help you characterize and differentiate different types and typefaces. So I wanted to show you something over here. I hope, just a moment. Do you guys see the screen right over here in blue, this window?
Yes, please.
Yes, I'm saying.
Okay, good. So the classification of typefaces varies between serifs, like I have already said, and then we have sans serifs, and then we have scripts like here, and then we have, like I've already said as well, monospaced, and lastly, display. I'll be sharing, I think, this link over here in the chat so you guys can access this PDF. So let me come over here to, I want to share this so that you guys can as well have access to this link. Is it under the team chat? Wait, chats? Can someone drop something in the chat so I can see exactly where I can drop this?
Then I've just sent one.
Arthur, can you drop something in the chat?
Okay,
So I can see where to drop.
Type the hello. Have you seen it?
Not yet. Let me see. Let me see. Imagine I'm only seeing chats for another. Go back to home. No, I'm not seeing it, but I'll share it later. I'm not seeing it. Anyway, I wanted to. Where is this?
Can you say I've just sent a hello?
No.
If you're using two screens,
I'm not seeing it.
Be on the other side.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. True. Okay. Here is the link. Thank you, Arthur. That worked.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I've shared the PDF link because we are not going to go each and everything. We're not going to be going through each and everything in understanding these types of typefaces. But when you visit this PDF, it will really give you an understanding of what the differences in between these typefaces are. For example, when you see like a serif, here they said serif typefaces include a slight projection finishing off the stroke of its letter forms, which is called the serif. This over right here. This over right here. Yeah. And also other characteristics can be like, for example, the diagonal stress, and also like we have also things like when you go into the bracketed, serifs, also things like the minimal contrast, like here they actually take you through and they show you, like, for example, number one is a diagonal stress, which is this over here. So this would have been nice for me to go through and explain everything, but 1 hour is not really enough for everything, yet you have to go into the page builder to understand how to implement this kind of styles. But this PDF will take you through to understand exactly what they mean by serifs, what they mean by sans serifs, and all that stuff. So anyway, I'll go back here to our presentation. Let's go and look at why typography and why do colors matter. There are many reasons, but I thought about, simply sharing, these kind of 5 pointers you guys can, put at the back of your mind when it comes to choosing typography and typefaces. One, branding. Typography and colors are key elements when you're actually working with a brand or trying to, create a brand identity, because a typeface will resonate with the kind of, audience the brand is targeting. I want you to look at a brand like, for example, KFC, the colors and the fonts that they use, a brand like Burger King, a brand like MTN, each and every aspect of the type they use and the color is is intentional and communicates, a certain message to their audience that we are going to be seeing in this presentation. And then also visual hierarchy. So why this matters: typography and colors can be used to create a visual hierarchy that guides the user's attention to important information. I want you to imagine this like seeing a very big bold title and then very little, text. For example, when you look at billboards in the city, you wouldn't want to see or to apply a very small heading to this billboard, because you want the emphasis to be there and you want that it can strike whoever is going to pass by or he's driving away. You want that, this information is, striking, and it has this visual hierarchy so that the most important information is passed out, and then the small details that don't have really so much details or so much importance, they are there, but not as, what is the main information that is being passed on. Then emotion and moods. Colors and typography can evoke different emotions and moods in the viewers, impacting the overall experience. I want you to imagine reading, a notice that is having red as a background and white color text, and also reading the same notice that is in black and white color text, as in black as the background. Which one would actually impact you the most? Which one would you take as a serious notice in this case? I guess it is a red. I hope you guessed right. So the emotions and the mood, the color and the typefaces strike is very important, especially when you are communicating visually to your audiences. So it does really matter in this case. Also, the readability. Typography can impact the readability of the content, making it easier or harder for the users to read and understand. If you have come across novels, I want you to notice that there are some novels that are really hard for you to read when it comes to the kind of typeface that was used to write that novel, and even the font or the type size or the font size, you can call it, because if the font size is too small, then you have really to concentrate a lot, and if it's too big, then it turns off like it wasn't, taken in consideration of who the reader is going to be. So the balance in between the two is very, very vital. So readability is a very key feature. Then accessibility. Typography and color play a crucial role in making design accessible to users with different abilities, improving the user experience and everyone. This is very important, especially when you are trying to reach people who are probably visually impaired, or people who are, for example, using screen readers, and also, depending on where you are communicating from. I was giving an example of a billboard which has, text, large and huge, and also comparing that to, for example, a flyer, who is going to be accessing this flyer and who is going to be accessing the billboard. So how you display and use your types and colors will really depend on who is going to access your material. So like a business card is for basically people who are concentrated, so you can even use smaller types. But if you are going to be making, for example, a banner or a billboard, then you have to concentrate at or focus or try to use bold and striking fonts that, can stand out, so that if someone is driving, this can really stand out and, pick up their attention. Choosing the right font. Considering that one thing when it comes to choose a font for your project, like someone was saying in our community, they are struggling with choosing fonts and for their projects and all that stuff. But the trick I use when I'm coming to choose what font or color to use is, first of all, to understand, one, who your client is and the target audience, the person or the people you are creating this content for. for example, a website or a banner or whatever it is. So if you get that at the back of your mind, it is going to become very easy for you. Let me assume you're creating a website for a kindergarten versus creating a website for a law firm. The fonts and the colors you're going to be using in this case, they'll be totally different, because the law firm is for, grown up, like professional people, people in the business, industry, like grown-ups, people who are probably educated and all that stuff. And yet, if you are creating a website for a kindergarten, you want something to be playful that is going to make, the website look like, it's attracting the kids and the kids' attention and all that stuff. So how you play with fonts and types and colors in this scenario really does matter. I have a reference to 2, which this is 2. And go there to 2. I wanted to mention, like, this is what it actually calls for you to understand how you can use font pairings and combinations, because if you are working on a website for a law firm, you want to use fonts that, rhyme with each other. And this is why I actually thought of sharing with you a trick that I use most of the times when I'm trying to look up for font combinations or font pairings. And now this takes me to, which is font is an online platform or a website that you can go and try to generate different font combinations, and it will give you samples of that very font, and at the same time it will enable you to select and change even fonts based on what you are trying to reach out to. Is someone asking a question or what?
Well, I think OH was just unmuted. Hamza, I think you can go.
Okay. That's fine. So right over here at Font Joy, you can, for example, I can say generate in this case. So there it will come up with different font combinations. And for example, now it has generated this font for the heading, and it's called Molly. And then for the subheading, it generated a font called SCADA. And also for the content, it generated a font. This name I can't read, but it's a sans serif font, which is right over here. And you can go ahead and, keep, generating different fonts and styles to see how that would look like. But alternatively, you can come over here and open up this other window that will enable you to look up for a specific typeface. For example, if you are looking for a sans serif as your heading, you can look up over here and look up for a sans serif. And this is why it is very important to know what sans serifs are, what serifs are, because that will, be very easy for you when it comes to working on your web projects, or selecting your typefaces to use in your projects. So in case I want to look up for a sans serif, so here I'll come and say which is a sans serif font I can use. So I have Comforter is a sans serif, so I can select that. So now I have Comforter, which is now for my headings, and I can as well come here and then, look up for a different font combination that can, work with these other suggested fonts. As well, you can change literally everything here, but I'll come over here to get inspirations on what font combinations I can use for my web projects, and I hope you too can find it of use. colors and their meanings. Did you know that each color that you use in your project has a way it impacts your audience? And if you did know that, I think this is the right time for you to know, because each color has a meaning that it drives your website visitors, or communicates to your website visitors. Right here, I have, an infographic, but I have a reference that I'll also link up over here in the chat so that you guys can as well go and check it out. But basically, when we look into, the color psychology, what colors communicate. For example, when you look here at purple, it communicates like a feeling of fantasy, justice, reality, misery, spirituality, art, imagination. If you look at red, it communicates at action. You remember the notice example I talked about, like you have this notice on the notice board or on the notes board, and it's, it's calling for some sort of attention. So you can use red because you want people to take action. Yeah, energy, strength, love, excitement, passion, and other colors. For example, yellow, can represent or stand for positivity, joy, warmth, fun, clarity, and a lot more. I have some references to 4 and 5. So I'll be sharing this here in the chat, so you can as well go check it out. And another reference for colors and meanings, still I'll also be sharing here in the chat. And in the second link, it also actually takes you through a little bit on more other color combinations and their meanings. For example, gray, and then brown, relaxing, confident, casual, reassuring, and all that stuff. So I like this because every time I have to take on like a web project, I want to, first of all, when I select my types that I'm going to be using, and by the way, also typefaces communicate a different feeling when it comes to building your web project. So it is very important also to choose the right font face to the right, kind of audience that you want to reach. That aside, when you choose a color that also complements that font face, then everything will be clicking. But once you miss out on one, then you end up, miscommunicating to your audience. So it is always vital to understand what you want to communicate. When you go through this page, it will actually take you through different reasons and why. In fact, one of the most exciting thing I realized is that even some of these colors, have a different meaning based on the region where you come from. So, for example, in the eastern part of the world or in the western part of the world, these colors can communicate totally different. So it is also important to understand your audience, because if, for example, people in the eastern part of the world, blue represents immortality, life, and feminine. In the Middle East, it represents like protection. In Mexico, it's like for mourning. Here in Africa, mourning, we normally put on like black. But I realized in some parts of the country, for example, in the Eastern, white is for death. So if you want to like you are mourning, you put on white in the eastern part of, in the eastern part of the world. And this shocked me because we have different, totally different kind of tastes and feeling when it comes to color and where we are geographically located. Let's talk about color combinations. So how do you come up with colors that you can use for your web projects, and how do you combine colors that can help you propel the message to your audience, to your creations? And that's why it is very important to have like a color palette. One of the persons in the community commented and said that they use mostly they use colors that they got from a logo that was created for their clients. But that is good to some extent, but it is very good also to look at the brand guideline, or the brand guideline in this case, for that company or service provider or brand, because that will give you a guide on why they chose what color and where they want to use that color. So it's very important. And if you don't have access to the brand guide, it is vital for you to either help the client to create the brand guide or to advise them on what they can do. So when you look at color combinations, I have another reference, which I'll also be linking up in the chat, 5 and 6. So 5. These are the resources I use personally when it comes to generating my color combinations. So I go to a website called colors.co. I also go to another website, which is from Adobe, colors.adobe.com, to create my color palettes. So starting with colors.co, right here, you can say generate, a color palette, because when you have a color palette, you will have different colors that complement with each other or blend with each other, or that you can use easily in your web projects and, communicate your message to your audience in the right way using the right mode. I mean, because colors also communicate a mode in this case. So this should be opening up. Are you guys here? I hope I'm not speaking to myself. There is a lot of silence.
Loud and clear.
Good. So when you come to colors.co and say generate, you can generate different color combinations. Now, like here, we now have different colors we can use. So we can use, for example, this black here for our text, and we can use this for our backgrounds, or we can use any of these. It is now up to you to choose what and which color to use where. And also make sure that, because the color palette already now has colors that will complement with each other in your design system. So once you have the color palette, now it goes back to you on how you can play along the lines with your color palette to achieve, or to have the most impactful way to communicate your message. But the tool I love the most is the colors.adobe.com, palette generator, or the color wheel, because here we can choose between different, color harmonies, and these color harmonies, communicate differently based on, the color palettes are generated differently based on that harmony. And that may also be specifically to a different audience. So here we have monochromatic, triad, complementary, split complementary, like all these are different color palette generations. So in this case, if I want to say, for example, monochromatic, I can come over here and, try to shift my color wheel and try to get different color combinations in my color palette. And once I have, a color palette over here, I can choose to come here and select my color codes right over here. Each color code is representing a color at the top over here, and then copy that up, and then you can go to your design system and add those colors to your design system and get started. I've added this link in the chat. You can go and check it out. So you can generate as well some other, color combinations or palettes. Okay, the most important one in this, presentation is creating a design system, because we love Elementor. Elementor is, this really awesome tool that we can use to create websites. If you don't know about Elementor, yeah, it's a page builder plugin for WordPress that enables you to create websites without necessarily knowing how to code. And it enables us to create a design system within the page builder that can enable us to create, you know, a website color pattern and typography pattern that is matching or that is consistent across the whole website. And any other time you want to apply a specific style, you just click one button and have that style applied wherever you want without having to go into all the different typography settings. So some of the best practices of choosing or how to use, for example, the design system in this case, you know, you have to choose fonts and colors that match your brand's, you know, personality. And like I have already shared earlier in this meetup, like you have to understand who your audience is, and then later understand which kind of font or typography or typeface, sorry, and color that will communicate, you know, to your audience. The other best practice that you can look into is, you know, when you use the typography and color to create a visual hierarchy that, you know, guides the user's attention to important information on your website. I have a page here that I created in my Elementor Pro Bootcamp course, which I would like to share with you. When you look at this page, there are important sections that I want my website visitor to focus on in this case. I have sections, like I have the first hero section. And one thing I want here someone to do is to click on this button. And that's why it actually stands out in this first hero section. And then as the viewer is scrolling down, I have another button I want them to click. I am trying to pull their attention on the whole page or in this very specific section to this button so that they can click over there, because I want them to take action on something as they scroll down and scroll down and scroll down. I have another section that is actually grabbing their attention. And this is right over here. And still, I want them to take action. So when I talked like the visual hierarchy or the visual hierarchy in this case, you want that your website typography and colors, you know, are directing your users and, you know, or the user's attention and asking them to, you know, perform a certain action or you drive them to do a certain action on your website. Another best practice I would mention here is avoid using too many different fonts and colors, as this can make your design look a little bit cluttered and unprofessional. Like when you look here in this design system that I created, which I'm going to show you a little bit later on, I only used, I think, 2 font faces. So, and that's what I would really want to ask most of you when you are going to start generating your font types or font faces. I want you to limit the fonts you are going to use to maximum 3 fonts, because the further or the more that you're going to use will bring a little bit of confusion. So if you minimize them to maximum 3, it will make your website not only look professional, but also be very easy or easily readable and accessible to your website visitors. The other best practice I would want to mention is using high contrast fonts and colors to improve readability, especially for users with visual impairment. We always forget about people who are having, visual issues. And I would want us to stop this because we kind of eliminate them. But if you start thinking about this from the word go when you're trying to build up your website design system, it will really take your website building, skill set to the next level, but also how you communicate to your audience and your website visitors will make that your website or your business or your website, your client's business perform even better in terms of one, the search engine, because also the search engine tries now to try to see the accessibility features of the website for, visually impaired people. Yeah, and a lot more. So make sure that you look into that at the very word go. Then also test your design with different font sizes and color combination to ensure readability on different devices and screens. Please don't forget that. And also the one that I love the most is the use of white space and visual breaks to create a balanced design and make it easier for the users to read and understand your website content. I'll take you back here to this page I created. You will realize that at a certain point on this page, I'm only seeing white everywhere. Like you can use white spaces to create one, not only focus or try to drive your website's attention and focus to a certain part of your website, but also to reduce clutter on your website pages. Don't always forget that trick because it works like magic and it doesn't require you to, get so creative or even think a lot. Now, let's go and look into how you can create a design system in the last, 9 minutes or something. In fact, we have to use like 5 so that we can get some questions from you guys. So when you open up any page with Elementor, the page builder, what you have to do, number one, is to right over here in the hamburger icon, which is this over here. When you open up any page with Elementor, just click on the hamburger and then you go to site settings. Inside the site settings, we have a feature called the design system. And let's start with the fonts, or what we call the global fonts. So inside the global fonts section, you can first of all create, but before you even create, we have already generated all system fonts, which are by default set over here, the primary, secondary, text, and the accent fonts. But you can add your own custom fonts that you're going to apply to sections in your website. These will also be global fonts. But I want to first of all explain to new or beginners who don't understand how this design system works. If I set up a font here in the primary, for example, I set this font to be a Arabic font. If I set this here and I apply it anywhere on this website, whatever page I apply it, and later in my design process, I decide to switch this font face or even to change the size of this font face. If I come back here in the design system and I change this, it will automatically change anywhere else I have it applied on the website. Now, this is the beauty of using the design system, because I remember when one of the persons in the community mentioned that when they struggle every time they want to change a font or a font size, they have to go to each and every page to make those necessary changes they want to make. Now, the beauty with design system is that it enables you to, stop that back and forth. You just simply go back to one section of your website, which is under the site settings, fonts, or in the design system, make the necessary changes, and you are good to go. When we look into the section where I added like the custom fonts, like they are not, I didn't upload custom fonts in this case, but I created fonts or font styles that are not already linked in the system font. So like I created my own part of the global fonts that I would like to use, in my sections of the website. In this case, let me show you, for example, the main hero title, which is this over here. So here I said I want it to be Archivo, 4.5 EM. But if I change this, let me see, if I change this to be like only 2, let me see, and then I apply. It should have already updated. Let me see if I added it here. Let me see. I'll exit. Style, typography, main hero title. So now I have given this hero title a global font face of main hero title, which I have in my global styles. Now, when I'm going to update, and we are going to go back to our design system, site settings, global fonts, under design system, and come here to main hero title. I'm going to change this to 4.5. You see now it changes automatically. Now that means that every other font or every other section on my website that I have applied the main hero title as the font face will automatically change. The same even for the font style, or sorry, for the font family. So if I say this is going to be Archivo Black and I increase, that will automatically change wherever I have that, applied. I can even change the font or the transform to, let me say, uppercase, and there we go. The other part that you can do the same setting without coming back here to the site settings, you can, for example, I'll exit the site settings. I can always come over here, or you can always come over here inside the editor, select that, that font face or that widget. And then once you have it selected, you're going to come here to typography, and you can always, adjust your font style, like how most people actually do it. I'll say maybe Garamond. And I want this to be, weight is going to be extra bold, and I want it to be a bit bigger. So I'll choose make it a 5, looks small, maybe an 8. Now, if I want to add style to the global style, what I'll simply do is click here on the create new global font style, like this, and hit a name for hero style, create, then I add. Now I'm going to exit, I'll exit my, to come over here and add a new section. I'll have to run in the row direction. I will add my heading. So the global style, and I'll come here to style, come to typography. And now I'll choose the new that I just created, which is this here, and voila. Is it this? No. Let me see, let me go down. Yeah, this is the one down below here because we chose Garamond. So there it automatically changes. Now, this will apply to wherever you have this global font added on your website. Let's go and talk about the global colors, site settings. It's basically the same trick or style or format that you use, just like the global fonts. You have these colors that you generated in your color palette, and anywhere you have that color applied, once you change it right here in the global colors, it will automatically change. For example, for my accent colors, my accents are applied to the links and the buttons. If I change this color, it will also change everywhere I have that color applied. So in this case, I'm going to come here and, for example, change this. And I want you to notice that this color here button is going to change. And also anywhere I have that color in this case, you see for the links and for the button here. And I also applied it here as an overlay color for call to action. So that is an example of how that is actually working like when it comes to global colors. The same will apply to any other pages that are added on this website. Anyway, I'm going to set it back to what I had already created, which is the same here. So I'll just copy this color code, come here, apply that color. Great, I'll update it now. And what else? I think that's all for now. I'll close up this in case you guys have any questions. I would like to know about that. But maybe before I close, I want to recap this. We basically went through and, got to understand the different kinds of typefaces and basically what's typography, what are typefaces, how to choose typefaces and fonts, and went into understanding colors and what colors communicate to your audience, based on what color you use and where and how. And then went straight into the page builder to understand how we can apply these colors and typefaces that we chose to our design system in the page builder. And I'll call it, yeah. In case you have any questions, I'm happy to welcome one or two, and then we can close up. Arthur, back to you.
Well, thank you so much, Hamza, for this wonderful presentation. This is really nice. I can see Rogers had a hand up. Rogers, saying.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Hamza, for the presentation. Yes, I have a question. I'm having a challenge with I have a site, and what happens is that all hyperlinks are smaller in the font size of all the hyperlinks, and the color is smaller, and the client tells me to change them to make sure that they're uniform. I've tried to check the glow all everywhere, custom CSS, the global, those sections where you wear the global styling and all that, and I'm really failing to see where the problem is. Either it's the theme, the basic theme having a conflict with the Elementor. It is actually an Elementor site. So how do I really handle this? Where I see a particular element is getting a strange formatting, and it is cutting across whenever that particular element, in this case a hyperlink, whenever the hyperlinks are, they are getting some styling which is undesirable. Thank you. That is my question.
Thank you, Rogers. Any other question?
Well, I think this is coming from me now. What suggestions would you bring or would you give for instances like I have a client, I made a beautiful website with some nice white spaces, and it's like, no, I don't like those white spaces. What solution can you do for such an instance?
Thank you, Arthur. I guess those are all the questions. I can answer that, then we close up. Okay, I'll start with Rogers. If you're having issues with hyperlinks when you have your website on Elementor, there are a couple of things you can check out. But once you have Elementor running, it will most times override all the hyperlink settings on your website. But it doesn't mean that it will override most of them, because I've also experienced an issue whereby my links from Astra or the Astra theme are still like overriding even the Elementor settings that I set. So you can always do the troubleshooting. But I have one trick that I want you to go and check out later this evening and see if it works for you. There is a section inside your Elementor, your Elementor editor, where it goes like under theme style, typography. You click over there and you're going to come down below that section. I hope my screen is still shared.
Yes, it is.
Is my screen still shared? Yes. So there is a section under the typography section in the Elementor editor site settings called link. Now, you can make changes to your links right from here. Now, that means that this will override your theme settings or the settings that came along with your theme. So you can set the color on normal right from here, change that to what you want, and also change the typography of your link from right over here, and at the same time come over here to the hover settings for the links and make the necessary changes over there. I hope when you check this out, Rogers, it will hold of a hidden feature within Elementor, because it's kind of like when you come over here to the design system, there is nothing like links. You see theme style and then you see typography, but still under that typography section is where you can make the styling for your links for the theme settings. I hope this helps you out. Then on the second part, or the other question, Arthur was asking, when you have a lot of white space and the client is saying, oh, the website is having a lot of white space. Now, this goes back to prototyping because it is always good that to avoid the back and forth between you and the client, it is good that you have a prototype at the very word go, so that by the time a client approves a website project to be done, you have already provided different, kind of designs that a website will look like. So I guess by the time you provide a prototype, maybe you could make two of them, one with a lot of white space and one with a lot of, background, images and colors and all that stuff. So you can pick their taste, because the client is the king. So sometimes you can advise and say something is good, but they're against it. So you can't force them. So when you give them these two options, and then they'll suggest maybe change this to this and change that to that, once the client confirms that this is what I'm going for, and you create that, and then they want to make changes to that, then they will be having to charge them extra. But I think it is going to help you a lot as a designer in one, streamlining your processes, and also limiting how much, changes after the actual design is done that you're going to receive from your client. As I hope that helps out to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we can close this up. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Was a pleasure. And we can continue this conversation on Twitter or in our community group. I'm delighted. Thank you, Arthur, for having me and looking forward to the next one. By the way, this is just like 30% of what you should know about typography and colors because it's a very huge wide topic. I would advise that you go check out some tutorials on YouTube, or we can maybe think of having another meetup and just we talk about typography or colors and all that stuff, or even maybe someone can do a WordCamp show or talk about this topic. Guys, have a good time and see you another time.
Okay, thank you for that. Before everyone goes, I would like to just share screen with you shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, right now, WordCamp is just in the corner, and we have actually a few days to WordCamp. I hope everyone can see this. Can you?
Yes.
Yeah, you can see.
Okay, please. Okay, just a moment. Well, WordCamp is around the corner and we have just a few days to come through. So please make sure that you, for those who haven't bought the tickets, you buy your tickets for the event. Ticket sales end on 8th, which is, they end on the 5th, which is March. So please, for anyone who would like to buy these tickets, they will be available till 5th. Further than that, there actually won't be any more ticket sales and tickets will be closed for people who have already paid. Now, to make your purchases, you can come to the tickets page here, where you can make your payments. You can use the WordCamp ticketing system. Alternatively, you can use this bit.ly, where you can go and buy your WordCamp ticket using MTN or Airtel mobile money as per your choice. So that said, I would ask, I don't know how many of us are here yet, but I would like to take a screenshot of all of us and give me your beautiful smiles. And then we call it an evening. Yes, are you there?
You tell us to smile, sir.
Okay, well. Open your
Roger,
screen.
nice to see you.
Open your screen. Okay. Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to take on that bootcamp, that Elementor Pro bootcamp. I should try it. I should really take on the challenge. Thank you.
Yeah, guys, open up. Joe and Logosa, I need your screen up.
Thank you, Roger. Nice to see you.
Guys, yes, a high five to all of us.
Tell us to smile.
Smile. Say what? Elementor. Okay. It's been great. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Thank you all for being here. And have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Hamza, thank you so much. This has been great.
Okay.
We shall be uploading this later on the YouTube screen. Thank you, all of us, and see ya.